The massive space station called Zephyrian Interspecies Academy floated quietly in the void between three different star systems. Its silver walls stretched for miles in every direction, home to thousands of students from across the galaxy. Inside one of the biology classrooms, Katie Martinez sat in the back row, her small human frame almost hidden behind the much larger alien students. Professor Veltar stood at the front of the room, his green scales catching the light as he moved. The reptilian teacher was nearly 8 feet tall, with yellow eyes that seemed to see everything. He pointed a clawed finger at the holographic display floating above his desk. The image showed a creature that looked like a cross between a wolf and a shadow, its dark form rippling as it moved. "This is a shadow stalker from Kepler Prime," Professor Veltar said in his deep, hissing voice. "It can become invisible and hunt prey for days without rest. Its teeth can cut through metal, and it never gives up once it picks a target." The students watched in fascination as the hologram showed the shadow stalker hunting. It moved like liquid darkness, appearing and disappearing as it chased a large elephant-like creature across a purple landscape. When it finally caught its prey, the display showed the devastating attack that ended the hunt in seconds. "Who can tell me about the apex predators from their homeworld?" Professor Veltar asked, looking around the room. A student named Zixandra raised one of her 4 arms. She was a Zephyrian, standing nearly 7 feet tall with a body that looked like it was made of overlapping blue plates. Her large, black eyes reflected the classroom lights as she spoke. "On Zephyr, we have the Storm Riders," she said in her musical voice. "They fly through lightning storms and use electricity to paralyze their prey. They can grow as large as your human aircraft and hunt in packs of 50 or more." The hologram changed to show massive bat-like creatures with wings that sparked with electricity. They soared through purple clouds, diving down to attack creatures on the ground below. Their electrical attacks lit up the sky like fireworks. "Excellent example," Professor Veltar nodded. "What about you, Crystalline Prime 7? A student that looked like a walking diamond stood up, its body catching and reflecting light in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "The silicon hunters of Quartz Prime can move through solid rock as if it were water," the crystal being said. "They feed on mineral deposits but will hunt any life form that threatens their territory. They can phase in and out of physical reality." The display showed creatures that looked like living glass moving through mountain sides. They appeared suddenly from solid stone, attacked with razor-sharp crystal claws, then disappeared back into the rock. Katie watched with interest, noting how each creature seemed perfectly designed for its environment. More students shared stories of their homeworld predators. There were the mind hunters from the Veil Nebula, gaseous creatures that could read thoughts and drive their prey insane, before feeding on their brain energy. The plasma bears of Arcturus VII could survive in the heart of a star and had claws made of pure energy. The void sharks from the dark sector could swim through empty space and had teeth that could bite through spaceship hulls. Each creature was more terrifying than the last. Katie listened quietly, taking mental notes about the different hunting, strategies, and abilities. She noticed that most of these predators relied on overwhelming physical advantages, size, strength, special abilities, or environmental advantages. "Now then," Professor Veltar said, his yellow eyes scanning the room. "We have heard from most of our species. But what about Earth? Katie Martinez, you have been quiet. Surely your homeworld has some impressive predators." All eyes in the classroom turned to Katie. She was small compared to the other students, barely 5.5 feet tall. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the standard academy uniform. To the alien students, she looked fragile and harmless. Katie looked around the room at all the expectant faces. Zixandra, who was her roommate and friend, gave her an encouraging nod. The other students waited to hear about Earth's version of a shadow stalker or storm rider. "Well," Katie said, her voice calm and steady, "Earth does have some interesting predators. We have great white sharks with rows of sharp teeth, tigers with claws that can tear through almost anything, bears that can weigh over 1,000 pounds, crocodiles that have barely changed in millions of years because they are such perfect hunters." The students listened politely, but Katie could see they were not impressed. These Earth creatures sounded dangerous, but nothing compared to the monsters they had just heard about. "But," Katie continued, "if you want to know about Earth's deadliest predator, the one that has conquered every environment and hunted more species than any other creature in our planet's history," she paused, looking around the room with a small smile, "that would be humans." The classroom went completely silent. Several students looked confused. A few made sounds that Katie had learned meant laughter in their species. Zixandra tilted her head to one side, her black eyes blinking rapidly. Professor Veltar's yellow eyes narrowed as he stared at Katie. "Humans?" he repeated. "You are saying that your own species is your planet's apex predator?" "Yes," Katie said simply. A student that looked like a large purple octopus made a sound like bubbling water. Katie had learned this was how the Aquatic Federation species laughed. "But humans are so small," the student said, "and you have no claws, no fangs, no armor, no special abilities. How can you be apex predators?" "That is an interesting claim," Professor Veltar said, his voice showing both curiosity and doubt. "Perhaps you would like to prove it?" Katie's smile grew a little wider. "I would be happy to." "Very well," the professor said. "Next week, each species will present a detailed analysis of their homeworld's apex predator. You will have access to the Academy's full database and holographic simulation systems. We will see how your humans compare to real predators." The other students began talking excitedly among themselves. They seemed to think Katie was either joking or about to embarrass herself badly. Zixandra leaned over to whisper to Katie. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Some of these creatures could destroy entire cities." Katie gathered her books and stood up as the class period ended. "Don't worry," she said to her friend. "I know exactly what I am doing." As the students filed out of the classroom, Katie could hear them talking about her presentation. Most seemed to think she was crazy. A few wondered if humans had some hidden abilities they had not heard about. But Katie just walked calmly to her next class, already planning what she would show them. She had a week to prepare. A week to show these alien students why humans had earned their place among the stars. A week to explain why Earth's seemingly harmless predators had succeeded where so many others had failed. Katie was looking forward to it. Word spread quickly through the academy about Katie's bold claim. By dinner time, students from dozens of different species were talking about the human girl who said her own species was Earth's deadliest predator. Some found it amusing, others found it puzzling, and a few found it concerning. Katie sat in the massive dining hall, eating her meal while conversations buzzed around her in dozens of different languages. The hall was designed to accommodate every type of being. There were pools for aquatic species, high perches for flyers, and climate-controlled zones for those who needed different atmospheres. The variety of food was just as diverse, from liquid, nutrients to living plants to synthetic proteins. Zixandra sat across from Katie, picking at her meal of crystallized minerals with her 4 hands. Her blue-plated skin reflected the soft lights of the dining hall as she spoke. "Everyone is talking about what you said in class," Zixandra said. "Torgak from the Warrior Caste wants to know if you have ever seen a human hunt. Aqua 7 is asking if humans can breathe underwater. Even the professors are curious." Katie looked around the dining hall and noticed that many students were indeed looking in her direction. Some tried to be subtle about it, others stared openly. A group of Zephyrian students were having what looked like a heated discussion, gesturing in her direction with their multiple arms. "I expected this," Katie said calmly, taking a bite of her synthesized earth food. "Most species see humans and think we look weak. We are smaller than most galactic races, we do not have natural weapons, and we seem fragile." "Well, Zixandra," said carefully, "you do look fragile compared to a storm rider or a shadow stalker." Katie smiled. "That is exactly what every prey species on Earth thought too." Before Zixandra could ask what she meant, a large shadow fell across their table. Katie looked up to see Torgak standing beside them. The warrior was from a species that looked like they were made of living stone, standing nearly 9 feet, tall with arms like tree trunks. His people were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters. "Human Katie," Torgak said in a voice like grinding rocks. "I have heard your claim about human predators. My people have fought the rockbreakers of our homeworld for thousands of years. These creatures can shatter mountains with their claws and have hide thicker than starship armor. You think your soft humans are more dangerous than this?" Katie looked up at the massive alien without any sign of fear. "I think humans have never had a prey species we could not catch, Torgak. Not one." Torgak made a sound like boulders falling. "Impossible. What about creatures that fly, or burrow underground, or live in places humans cannot survive?" "Humans hunt them all," Katie said simply. This attracted the attention of nearby tables. More students began gathering around to listen. Katie noticed several professors had also stopped their conversations to watch. A student from the Aquatic Federation flowed closer, its tentacles rippling with purple patterns. "Humans cannot survive in deep ocean," Aqua 7 said in its bubble-filled voice. "How do they hunt ocean predators?" "They build tools," Katie replied. "Submarines, diving suits, underwater breathing apparatus. Humans change their environment or create tools to access any hunting ground they want. But tools are not the same as natural ability," argued a crystalline student whose body sparkled in the light. "Tools break. Tools fail. A true predator relies on its own strength." Katie nodded thoughtfully. "That is an interesting point. Tell me, what happens when your natural abilities are not enough? When you face prey that is faster, stronger, or better armed than you are?" "Then you fail," said Torgak. "Only the strong survive." "Exactly," Katie said. "But humans never accept failure. If they cannot catch prey one way, they find another way. If they cannot reach prey in one place, they find a way to get there. If they cannot kill prey with their hands, they make weapons. Humans are predators that never give up and never accept that something cannot be hunted." Professor Veltar approached the growing crowd of students. His yellow eyes studied Katie with new interest. "These are bold claims, Miss Martinez," he said. "But claims require proof. I trust you are prepared to back up your words with evidence." "I am," Katie said, standing up to face the professor. "Give me access to the Academy's holographic systems and databases. 1 week from now, I will show you exactly why humans are The most successful predators in Earth's history. And what exactly will you demonstrate? Professor Veltar asked. Katie looked around at all the alien faces watching her. Some showed skepticism, others curiosity, and a few showed what might. Have been worry. I will show you how humans hunt, she said. Not just individual prey, but entire species, entire ecosystems. I will show you how humans became the only predators on Earth that other predators fear. A murmur went through the crowd. Several students made sounds of disbelief. Impossible, said a nebula student whose gaseous form flickered with doubt. No, single species can dominate all others. We shall see, Professor Veltar said. Miss Martinez, you will have full access to our research facilities. 1 week from today, you will present your findings to the entire academy. All species, all students, all faculty. Are you prepared for that level of scrutiny? Katie met his gaze steadily. I welcome it. Very well. But I should warn you, if your presentation fails to prove your claims, it will reflect poorly on both you and your species' application for full membership in the Galactic Council. The crowd went quiet. Katie had not known that her presentation would affect humanity's standing in galactic politics. She felt the weight of representing her entire species, but her expression did not change. I understand, she said. I will not fail, Professor Veltar nodded slowly. Then we shall reconvene in 1 week. Students, I suggest you use this time to prepare your own presentations. Show us your true apex predators. Make them as impressive as possible. As the crowd began to break up, students chattering excitedly in their various languages, Jake Collins approached Katie's table. Jake was another human student, studying engineering, and had been at the academy for 2 years. Katie, what are you doing? He asked quietly. Do you know what you just got yourself into? Some of these creatures could wipe out entire human cities. Katie gathered her things calmly. Jake, have you ever studied human history? Some, he said. Why? Study it more closely, she said. Look at what happened to every species that humans decided to hunt. Look at how many environments we conquered. How many creatures we drove to extinction. How many ecosystems we completely changed. Jake looked uncertain. But that is different. That took thousands of years and billions of humans working together. Katie headed toward the exit, then turned back to look at Jake and the few students still listening. That is exactly my point, she said. Humans do not hunt like other predators. We do not just kill prey and move on. We hunt entire species until they no longer exist. We hunt environments until they serve our purposes. We hunt anything that stands in our way, and we never stop until we win. She walked out of the dining hall, leaving Jake and the others to think about her words. Behind her, conversations erupted in dozens of languages as students began to realize that Katie might not be joking. Zixandra caught up with Katie in the corridor outside the dining hall. Katie, she said, you are starting to worry some of the students and some of the professors. Are humans really as dangerous as you are making them sound? Katie stopped walking and turned to face her friend. For the first time, her smile faded, slightly. Zixandra, has your species ever driven another species completely extinct on purpose? No, Zixandra said immediately. That would be terrible. Has any species you know of ever completely changed their planet's climate to suit their needs? No, that would be impossible. Has any species ever spread to every possible environment on their planet, even places where they cannot naturally survive? Zixandra was quiet for a moment. No, she said softly. Katie's smile returned, but now it looked different to Zixandra. Less friendly, more predatory. Then you understand why I am confident about my presentation, Katie said. Humans have done all of those things, and now we are doing it on other planets too. As Katie walked away toward her dormitory, Zixandra stood in the corridor, thinking about her friend's words. For the first time since meeting Katie, she wondered if she really knew humans at all. The week that followed was unlike any other in the Academy's history. Students worked with desperate intensity to prepare presentations about their homeworld's most dangerous predators. The library sections were crowded at all hours, and the holographic simulation chambers had waiting lists days long. Katie spent most of her time in the deepest levels of the Academy's research center, where the most advanced computers stored data from thousands of worlds. She had requested access to Earth's complete historical database, military records, ecological surveys, and something called extinction event documentation. The requests had raised eyebrows among the faculty, but Professor Veltar had granted her full access as promised. Jake found her there on the third day, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing data streams, charts, and video footage. She was making notes on a tablet while watching multiple screens at once. Katie, you have been down here for 16 hours straight, Jake said, looking concerned. You need to eat something and get some sleep. Katie glanced up from her work. Her eyes were tired but focused. Did you know that humans have caused more species extinctions than any natural disaster in Earth's history? She asked. What are you talking about? Katie gestured to one of the displays. Look at this data. In the last 50,000 years, over 80% of large animal species on Earth went extinct within a few hundred years of humans arriving in their territory. Mammoths, giant ground sloths, cave bears, dire wolves, all gone. Jake looked at the scrolling lists of extinct species. But that was early humans with primitive tools. They could not have been that effective. That is what I thought too, Katie said, pulling up another display. But look at the timeline. Every time humans reached a new continent or island, massive extinctions followed within centuries. Australia lost its giant lizards and massive birds. The Americas lost most of their megafauna. Even small islands lost their unique species when humans arrived. She changed the display to show a map of Earth with time-lapse extinction data. Red dots appeared and spread across continents, each dot representing lost species. The pattern was clear and frightening. It gets worse, Katie continued. This is just humans with stone tools and fire. Watch what happens when they develop agriculture, then metalworking, then industrial technology. The display showed the acceleration of extinction rates over the last few thousand years. The red dots multiplied exponentially. Jake stared at the data in growing horror. Katie, this makes humans look like a plague that destroys everything it touches. No, Katie said quietly. It makes humans look like the most successful predators who ever lived. Look at this. She brought up a new display showing human population, growth, and territorial expansion over time. Every other species on Earth has natural limits. Predators are limited by prey populations. Prey species are limited by predators and resources. But humans... The graph showed human population and territory expanding exponentially, with only temporary setbacks that were quickly overcome. Humans removed their natural limits, Katie said. They domesticated their food sources, eliminated their predators, and spread to environments where no human could naturally live. They turned the entire planet into human habitat. Meanwhile, other students were making their own discoveries about their homeworld predators. In the simulation chamber next to Katie's, Torgak was creating a detailed recreation of a rock-breaker hunt. The massive stone creature in his simulation could indeed shatter mountains, and its hide could deflect energy weapons that would destroy starships. Zixandra was working on Storm Rider pack behavior, showing how 50 of the massive electrical predators could coordinate their attacks to bring down creatures the size of small cities. The lightning displays were so realistic that they had triggered safety shutdowns twice. Aqua 7 had created an underwater environment where its species' deepest predators hunted. These creatures lived in ocean trenches where the pressure would crush most life forms, and they could paralyze prey by disrupting their nervous systems from miles away. But word was spreading about what Katie was researching. Students who glimpsed her work began talking nervously among themselves. The data she was gathering was not about individual predators or hunting techniques. It was about total ecosystem domination. On the 5th day, Professor Veltar came to check on Katie's progress. He found her reviewing footage from something called historical warfare documentation. "Miss Martinez," he said, "I hope you are not planning to argue that human warfare makes your species effective predators. War is not predation." Katie looked up at him. "Professor, what would you call it when one group of humans systematically hunts down and kills another group until they no longer exist?" "That would be genocide," Professor Veltar said carefully. "A terrible crime." "Yes," Katie agreed, "but it is also predation. Humans are the only species I have found that regularly practices predation against their own kind. Not for territory or resources, but for ideological reasons, religious differences, or even just because they could." She brought up displays showing historical conflicts. Humans have perfected the art of hunting their own species. They developed tactics, technologies, and strategies specifically for killing other humans as efficiently as possible. Professor Veltar's yellow eyes widened as he saw the data. "This is disturbing." "It gets more disturbing," Katie said. "Watch this." She showed footage of human military operations. "These are not individual hunts. These are coordinated campaigns, involving millions of hunters using weapons that can kill from impossible distances. Humans developed the ability to hunt prey they cannot even see, using tools that can track targets across entire continents." The professor watched in growing alarm as Katie demonstrated human weapons technology, from ancient spears to modern guided missiles to orbital bombardment systems. "But surely this is overkill for hunting animals," he said. "Oh, this is not for hunting animals," Katie replied. "This is for hunting other humans. For hunting animals, humans developed completely different approaches." She changed the display to show industrial fishing fleets, factory farms, and wildlife management systems. "Humans did not just hunt animals," she explained. "They domesticated them, bred them for specific purposes, and created entire industries around controlling animal populations. They turned predation into a systematic global operation." By the 7th day, rumors about Katie's presentation had reached every corner of the academy. Students gathered in small groups, speaking in worried whispers. Some wanted to withdraw their own presentations rather than compete with whatever Katie was planning to show. Zixandra found Katie in their shared dormitory room on the night before the presentation. Katie was reviewing her notes one final time, while holographic displays showed charts, graphs, and video clips. "Katie," Zixandra said carefully, "some of the students are scared about tomorrow. They have heard that your research shows humans are dangerous. Katie looked up from her work. Zixandra, do you know how many species humans drove extinct before they even developed agriculture? No. Over 200 documented species, probably many more. Do you know how many species went extinct after humans developed industrial technology? How many? Over 20,000. In just 200 years. Zixandra was quiet for a long moment. Katie, are you trying to scare us? Katie saved her work and turned to face her friend. I am trying to answer Professor Veltar's question. He wanted to know about Earth's deadliest predator. Everything I have found confirms that it is humans. But you are human too, Zixandra pointed out. You are not scary, Katie smiled. But Zixandra noticed it was the same smile she had worn when she first claimed humans were apex predators. Zixandra, has it ever occurred to you to wonder why humans look so harmless? Why we seem weak and fragile compared to other species? Well, yes, I have wondered about that. Most predators look dangerous because they need to be scary to catch prey that might fight back, Katie explained. But what if you were such an effective predator that you did not need to look dangerous? What if your prey never realized they were being hunted until it was too late? Zixandra felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room temperature. What if, Katie continued, the most successful hunting strategy was to look harmless until the moment you strike? Outside their window, the stars wheeled slowly through space. Ships from dozens of species traveled between the Academy and their homeworlds, carrying students and supplies in peaceful cooperation. But Zixandra found herself wondering for the first time whether any of those ships belonged to predators, who looked just as harmless as Katie did. Get some sleep, Katie said gently. Tomorrow you will understand everything. But Zixandra lay awake for hours that night, staring at the ceiling and thinking about her friend's words. And for the first time since arriving at the Academy, she made sure to lock her door before going to sleep. The Academy's main auditorium had never been so full. Students from every species packed the massive space, filling seats, pools, perches, and floating platforms. Faculty members sat in special sections, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Even the Academy's director, an ancient being called Elder Consensus, had emerged from its meditation chambers to attend. The auditorium itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate every type of life form in the galaxy. Environmental controls maintained dozens of different atmospheric conditions simultaneously. Translation systems worked overtime, converting speech and concepts between hundreds of languages and communication methods. Professor Veltar stood at the central podium, his green scales reflecting the bright stage lights. His yellow eyes surveyed the crowd before speaking. Today we witness an unprecedented event, he announced, his voice carried to every corner of the auditorium by advanced acoustic systems. Students from across the galaxy will present their research on apex predators. We will see creatures of the incredible power, adaptation, and hunting skill. The crowd stirred with anticipation. Many students had heard rumors about the presentations to come, especially Katie's controversial claim about humans. However, Professor Veltar continued, one presentation has generated particular interest. A human student has claimed that her own species represents Earth's deadliest predator. Today we will examine this claim scientifically and determine its validity. Excited chatter broke out among the audience before Professor Veltar called for silence. We begin with the Zephyrian delegation. Zixandra took the stage with 3 other Zephyrian students. Their blue-plated bodies moved gracefully as they activated the massive holographic display system. The auditorium darkened, and suddenly the audience was surrounded by the purple skies of planet Zephyr. "Behold the Storm Riders," Zixandra announced. Massive creatures materialized in the air above the audience. They looked like enormous bats with wings that crackled with electricity. Each one was larger than most aircraft, with wingspans that stretched across the auditorium. Lightning danced between their wing membranes as they soared through purple storm clouds. Storm Riders hunt in coordinated groups of up to 100 individuals, Zixandra explained, as the hologram showed a hunt in progress. They use electromagnetic fields to communicate across vast distances and can generate enough electrical energy to power a small city. The audience watched in awe as the Storm Riders descended on their prey, massive whale-like creatures that floated through Zephyr's thick atmosphere. The attack was devastating. Coordinated lightning strikes paralyzed the prey while the pack tore it apart with razor-sharp claws. "A single Storm Rider can generate 50 million volts of electricity," one of Zixandra's teammates added. "Their hide is naturally resistant to energy weapons, and they can fly at speeds approaching 500 kilometers per hour." The demonstration concluded with data showing Storm Rider hunting success rates, territorial range, and adaptability. It was impressive by any measure. These were clearly apex predators that dominated their environment completely. The audience applauded appreciatively as the Zephyrian team left the stage. Several faculty members made notes about the thoroughness of their research. Next came Torgak and the warrior caste delegation. The stage transformed into a rocky, volcanic landscape under a red sun. The temperature in the auditorium rose noticeably as the environmental systems tried to match the hostile conditions of their homeworld. "The rock breakers of Tor Prime," Torgak announced in his grinding voice. The creature that materialized was a nightmare of living stone and metal. It stood 30 feet tall, its body carved from what looked like granite and obsidian. Its claws were longer than starship hull plates, and its eyes glowed like molten lava. "Watch," Torgak commanded. The rockbreaker approached a mountain and began to attack it with its claws. Each strike sent massive chunks of stone flying. Within minutes, it had carved a tunnel completely through the mountain. The sound of its attack was like continuous thunder. "Rock breakers feed on mineral deposits deep within planetary cores," Torgak explained. "They can burrow through solid rock at 20 kilometers per hour. Their hide is harder than starship armor, and they can survive in temperatures that would melt most metals." The hologram showed a pack of rock breakers hunting together, systematically dismantling an entire mountain range in search of prey. The destruction was absolute. Nothing remained but rubble and dust. "No weapon we have ever created can penetrate their hide," Torgak said proudly. "They are living siege engines, unstoppable forces of nature." The audience was clearly impressed and somewhat intimidated. These creatures made the Storm Riders look fragile by comparison. The presentations continued through the morning. Aqua 7 showed the deep trench hunters of the Aquatic Federation, creatures that lived in crushing ocean depths and could paralyze prey through bioelectric fields that disrupted nervous systems from vast distances. The Crystalline delegation presented phase hunters that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them effectively immune to physical attacks while allowing them to strike from angles that should not exist. The Nebula Federation showed energy-based predators that fed on stellar radiation and could drain the life force from entire solar systems. Each presentation was more impressive than the last. The creatures shown were forces of nature, evolved for ultimate efficiency in their respective environments. They were clearly the products of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. During the lunch break, students gathered in excited groups to discuss what they had seen. The general consensus was that Katie would have to present something extraordinary, to compete with creatures that could shatter mountains, drain stars, or exist in multiple dimensions. Katie sat quietly in the dining hall, reviewing her notes one final time. Students at nearby tables kept glancing in her direction, some looking curious, others worried. Jake sat across from her, looking nervous. "Katie, these creatures are incredible," he said. "How can humans possibly compete with things that can break mountains or drain solar systems?" Katie looked up from her tablet. "Jake, let me ask you something. What do all of these predators have in common?" "They are incredibly powerful." "Yes. But what else?" Jake thought for a moment. "They are all perfectly adapted to their specific environments?" "Exactly," Katie said. "They are specialized. Each one is the ultimate predator for one specific type of environment or prey. But what happens when the environment changes? What happens when they encounter something they did not evolve to hunt?" "I guess they would struggle," Jake admitted. "Now let me ask you another question," Katie continued. "What environment are humans adapted for?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "Well, originally grasslands and forests, I think." "Originally, yes. But where do humans live now?" Jake started to understand. "Everywhere. Deserts, Arctic regions, underwater, in space." "Right. And what do humans hunt?" "Everything," Jake said quietly. Katie closed her tablet and stood up. "That is the difference, Jake. Every other predator we have seen today is the ultimate hunter in one specific situation. Humans are adequate hunters in every situation. And in the long run, adequate everywhere beats ultimate somewhere." As she walked toward the auditorium for the afternoon session, Jake realized that Katie's smile had changed again. It was still friendly, but now it carried something else. The confidence of a predator that had never met prey it could not catch. The afternoon presentations featured more incredible creatures. Gas giant swimmers that could hunt in atmospheric pressures that would crush starships. Silicon-based predators that fed on radioactive materials and could survive nuclear explosions. Hive mind hunters that could coordinate attacks across multiple star systems. Each presentation raised the bar higher. The audience began to wonder how any single species could possibly compete with such incredible diversity of hunting adaptations. Finally, as the day grew late, Professor Veltar called the final presenter, Miss Katie Martinez, representing Earth and humanity. Katie walked calmly to the center stage, carrying only a small data tablet. She looked tiny compared to the massive holographic projectors and environmental control systems. The auditorium fell completely silent as she reached the podium. She looked out at the sea of alien faces, some curious, some skeptical, some openly worried about what she might reveal. In the faculty section, she could see professors from dozens of species watching her intently. "Thank you for your patience," she said, her voice clear and steady. "I know you have seen some incredible creatures today, predators that can break mountains, drain stars, and hunt in impossible environments." She activated her tablet, and the auditorium's lights dimmed slightly. "You have seen predators that are perfectly adapted, overwhelmingly powerful, and supremely specialized for their roles." The holographic systems activated, but instead of showing a fearsome creature, They displayed a simple question in dozens of languages. What makes a predator truly dangerous? Katie looked around the auditorium, meeting the eyes of students and faculty alike. Is it size, strength, special abilities, natural weapons? She paused, letting the question hang in the air. Or is it something else entirely? The first holographic display that appeared above the auditorium showed a simple human figure. It looked small and unremarkable compared to the massive predators that had been presented earlier. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the audience. "This is a human," Katie said simply. "As you can see, we are not very impressive physically." Data appeared beside the human figure: height, weight, muscle strength, bite force, running speed, all the basic physical statistics that had been used to measure the other predators. Humans are 5 to 6 feet tall on average. We weigh between 100 and 200 pounds. Our bite force is about 150 pounds per square inch, weaker than most household pets. We can run about 25 miles per hour for short distances. We have no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. Several students made sounds that Katie recognized as laughter in their species. This seemed to confirm what they had expected. Humans were clearly not apex predators. By every measure you have used today, humans should be easy prey, Katie continued. We are smaller, weaker, and slower than most of the creatures you have seen. Any of the predators presented today could kill a human without effort. Professor Veltar looked puzzled. "Miss Martinez, are you arguing against your own thesis?" Katie's smile widened. "No, Professor. I am showing you why humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy." The display changed to show a map of Earth. Green areas marked human settlements, which covered most of the planet's land surface. "Humans live everywhere on Earth," Katie said. "Arctic ice caps, scorching deserts, high mountains, deep valleys, islands, coastlines, every environment where life is possible, and many where it should not be." The map zoomed in to show human cities in places that looked impossible for habitation. Ice-covered research stations in Antarctica, underwater research facilities, settlements in the middle of vast deserts. "But, Professor," Zixandra called out, "that just shows humans are adaptable. Many species can adapt to different environments." "You are absolutely right," Katie agreed. "But watch this." The display changed to show a time-lapse view of Earth over the last 10,000 years. The green areas representing human habitation started small, but began expanding rapidly across the continents. "This is human expansion over time," Katie explained. "Notice anything unusual?" Torgak raised a massive stone arm. "It never stops. Most species expand until they reach their environmental limits, then stop." "Exactly. But humans never reach their environmental limits. Instead, they change the environments to suit their needs." The display showed forests being cleared and turned into farmland, rivers being redirected, mountains being flattened, and deserts being irrigated. The changes were dramatic and systematic. When humans encountered environments they could not survive in, they did not adapt to those environments, Katie said. They adapted the environments to themselves. The map showed the construction of cities in places where no life should exist. Underground, underwater, in polar regions, even in space. "But this is not predation," protested Aqua 7. "This is environmental modification." "Is it?" Katie asked. She changed the display to show what had happened to other species during human expansion. "Watch what happens to other life forms as humans spread." The time-lapse continued, but now red dots appeared to mark species extinctions. As the green human areas expanded, red dots multiplied exponentially. Every time humans moved into a new environment, the species that lived there began disappearing, Katie explained. Not because humans were competing with them for resources, but because humans were systematically hunting them. The display zoomed in on specific examples. When humans reached Australia 50,000 years ago, 85% of large animal species went extinct within 2,000 years. When they reached the Americas 15,000 years ago, 70% of megafauna disappeared within 1,000 years. The pattern was clear and disturbing. Human expansion was followed immediately by mass extinctions. But early humans only had primitive tools, Jake called out from the audience. Stone spears and fire, how could they be so effective? Katie nodded approvingly. Excellent question. Let me show you something that makes humans unique among predators. The display changed to show early humans hunting a massive mammoth. But instead of showing individual humans attacking with spears, it showed something different. This is persistence hunting, Katie said. Humans do not hunt like other predators. They do not rely on speed, strength, or stealth for a quick kill. The hologram showed a group of humans pursuing the mammoth at a steady jogging pace. The mammoth ran away easily at first, but the humans never stopped following. Humans can run continuously for hours without stopping, Katie explained. Not fast, but steadily. Most prey animals are built for short bursts of speed to escape immediate danger. They cannot maintain high speed for long periods. The simulation continued. The mammoth would run until exhausted, then stop to rest. But the humans never stopped. They continued jogging toward their prey at the same steady pace. The prey thinks it has escaped, so it stops to rest. But humans never lose the trail, and they never stop pursuing. Hours passed in the simulation. The mammoth began to slow down, unable to maintain its escape speed. Its rest periods became longer and more frequent. The humans grew closer. Eventually, the prey becomes so exhausted it cannot run anymore. That is when humans close in for the kill. The simulation showed the final moment when the exhausted mammoth could no longer flee, and the humans moved in with their simple spears. This is terrifying, whispered a student from the crystalline delegation. It gets worse, Katie said. Watch what happens when humans encounter prey that is too fast or too strong for persistence hunting. The display changed to show humans hunting birds with nets, fish with traps, and dangerous predators with pitfall traps. When pursuit is not effective, humans use tools to hunt at a distance. When direct confrontation is too dangerous, they use traps and ambushes. When individual effort is not enough, they coordinate in groups. The hologram showed increasingly sophisticated human hunting techniques. Coordinated drives that herded entire herds of animals over cliffs, fish weirs that caught entire salmon runs, bird nets that captured flocks of migrating waterfowl. Humans developed hunting techniques for every possible situation, Katie continued. Flying prey, swimming prey, burrowing prey, prey that lived in places humans could not reach. They found ways to hunt them all. Elder Consensus spoke for the first time, its ancient voice carrying clearly through the auditorium. This demonstrates efficiency, but many species are efficient hunters. Yes, Katie agreed. But watch what happens when humans encounter prey they cannot catch with their existing methods. The display showed human technological development over time. Stone tools became metal tools. Simple spears became bows and arrows. Individual weapons became siege engines. When humans could not catch fish with their hands, they invented nets. When nets were not enough, they invented boats. When boats were not enough, they invented sonar to locate fish underwater. When individual boats were not enough, they invented industrial fishing fleets. The progression was relentless. Each advancement in technology was followed by increased hunting effectiveness. When humans could not catch birds flying overhead, they invented projectile weapons. When arrows were not enough, they invented firearms. When firearms were not enough, they invented aircraft to hunt flying prey in their own element. The audience watched in growing unease as human hunting technology advanced through history. Each innovation made humans more effective predators. Other predators are limited by their biology, Katie said. Humans removed their biological limitations by creating external tools and weapons. The display showed modern human hunting equipment, rifle scopes that could hit targets miles away, sonar systems that could track submarines underwater, radar that could detect aircraft beyond the horizon. Humans became predators that could hunt at any distance, in any environment, against any type of prey. Zixandra raised her hand hesitantly. But surely there are some creatures that humans cannot hunt. Katie looked at her friend with that same unsettling smile. Name one. The auditorium fell silent as students tried to think of any creature that could be completely safe from human hunting. The silence stretched on uncomfortably long. You cannot think of one, Katie observed. Because there is not one. Humans have developed hunting techniques for every type of life form they have ever encountered. The display changed to show humans hunting in space, using spacecraft to track and capture objects in the vacuum between planets. Humans are now hunting in environments where no Earth life evolved to live, Katie said. They have removed all environmental limits on their predation. Professor Veltar's voice was carefully controlled when he spoke. Miss Martinez, this is a very concerning presentation. Are you suggesting that humans pose a threat to other galactic species? Katie's expression remained calm and friendly. Professor, I am simply answering your question about Earth's deadliest predator. She paused, looking around the auditorium, at hundreds of alien faces that were no longer showing skepticism but growing worry. And I have not even shown you the most dangerous thing about human predation yet. The auditorium was completely silent now. Students who had been chattering excitedly during previous presentations sat motionless, their attention focused entirely on Katie and her disturbing revelations about human hunting behavior. Everything I have shown you so far, Katie said, represents individual human hunting capabilities. But humans are not solitary predators. The holographic display changed to show a small group of early humans moving across an African savanna. They moved together in a coordinated formation, communicating with hand signals and quiet sounds. Humans evolved as pack hunters, Katie continued. But their pack hunting behavior is unlike anything else in the galaxy. The display zoomed in on the human group. There were about 20 individuals, including some who appeared too old or young to be effective hunters. Most pack predators hunt in groups of related individuals with similar capabilities, Katie explained. Wolf packs, storm rider flocks, rockbreaker teams. They all follow the same basic pattern. Strong individuals work together to bring down prey larger than any one of them could handle alone. The alien students nodded. This was familiar behavior that they had seen in their own world's pack hunters. Human packs are different, Katie said. Watch. The simulation showed the human group approaching a herd of large antelope, but instead of attacking directly, they began to spread out in a complex pattern that seemed to make no sense. Humans in a hunting pack do not all have the same role, Katie explained. They specialize. Some are trackers who follow prey signs. Some are drivers who frighten prey in specific directions. Some are ambush hunters who wait in concealment. Some are tool makers who create weapons and traps. The hologram showed the different humans performing their specialized roles. Trackers found the herd and determined their movement patterns. Tool makers prepared spears and nets. Drivers positioned themselves to frighten the animals toward a specific location. Most importantly, Katie continued, human hunting packs include individuals who cannot hunt at all. The display highlighted the older humans and children in the group. Non-hunting members serve as information processors, strategists, and knowledge repositories. They remember successful hunting techniques, plan complex operations, and pass knowledge to the next generation. The simulation showed the hunt beginning. The drivers started making noise and showing themselves to the antelope herd. The animals fled in panic directly toward the concealed ambush hunters. Human pack hunting is not just about bringing down individual prey, Katie said. It is about information warfare, Torgak spoke up, his stone voice puzzled. Information warfare? What does this mean? Humans do not just hunt animals, Katie replied. They hunt the animals' behavior patterns, movement habits, and survival strategies. They study their prey more thoroughly than the prey studies itself. The display showed human trackers examining animal footprints, noting the size, speed, and direction of travel. Other humans observed animal behavior from concealment, learning feeding times, watering locations, and escape routes. Over time, humans learn everything about their prey. When it feeds, where it sleeps, how it reacts to threats, what it fears. They map out every aspect of the prey's existence. The simulation fast-forwarded to show multiple hunts over several months. Each hunt was more successful than the last as the humans learned from their experiences and refined their techniques. But this level of study takes too long for individual humans to master, Katie continued. So they developed something unprecedented in predator evolution. The display changed to show humans sitting around a fire, making complex vocalizations and gestures. Language, Katie said simply. Several students made confused sounds. Language was common among intelligent species. No, Katie said, reading their reactions correctly. Not just communication. Humans developed language specifically for sharing hunting knowledge across individuals and generations. The hologram showed older humans teaching younger ones about animal behavior, hunting techniques, and tool construction. The knowledge was being passed down through spoken stories, demonstrations, and practice sessions. Human hunting knowledge is cumulative, Katie explained. Each generation builds on the knowledge of previous generations. Hunting techniques that took decades to develop are taught to children in hours. Aqua 7 bubbled nervously. But many species pass down hunting knowledge to their offspring. Yes, but look at the scale, Katie replied. The display showed a map of early human territories. Lines appeared connecting different human groups, showing the flow of information between them. Humans share hunting knowledge not just within family, groups, but between different tribes across vast distances, and even between groups that have never met directly. The simulation showed human traders carrying information about successful hunting techniques from one group to another. Knowledge about new prey species, effective tools, and successful strategies spread across entire continents. A hunting innovation, developed by humans in one location, could be used by humans thousands of miles away within a single generation, Katie said. No other species has ever achieved this level of information sharing. The display fast-forwarded to show human technological development accelerating dramatically as knowledge sharing improved. Writing systems allowed humans to store hunting knowledge permanently. Transportation systems allowed them to share information across greater distances. Communication systems allowed them to coordinate hunts in real time across vast areas. Elder Consensus spoke again, its ancient voice carrying a note of concern. "You are describing a species that treats hunting as a science rather than an instinct." "Exactly," Katie confirmed. "Humans systematized predation. They turned hunting from a biological drive into an organized discipline with research, development, and continuous improvement." The display showed modern human research facilities where scientists studied animal behavior, developed new hunting technologies, and tested improved techniques. Today, humans have research institutions dedicated entirely to understanding other species. They study animal psychology, migration patterns, breeding cycles, and genetic weaknesses. They know more about their prey than the prey knows about itself. The auditorium was growing noticeably colder as environmental systems reacted to the stress levels of various alien species. "But surely," Zixandra said hesitantly, "this level of study means humans only hunt when necessary. For food or protection?" Katie turned to look at her friend with an expression that made Zixandra wish she had not asked the question. "No," Katie said quietly. "Humans developed hunting techniques so advanced that they no longer needed to hunt for survival, so they began hunting for other reasons." The display changed to show human recreational hunting. Humans tracking and killing animals for sport, for trophies, for entertainment. "Humans hunt because they enjoy it," Katie said. "They created an entire culture around unnecessary predation." The images showed hunting competitions, trophy rooms filled with mounted animal heads, and humans paying large sums of money for the privilege of hunting rare or dangerous animals. They hunt animals to extinction for their ivory, their fur, their horns. They hunt animals they will never eat, in places they do not live, for reasons that have nothing to do with survival. Professor Veltar's voice was strained when he spoke. "Miss Martinez, are you saying that humans hunt for pleasure?" "Yes," Katie replied simply. "Humans are the only predators who have ever developed recreational predation. They hunt when they are not hungry, when they are not threatened, when they have no practical need for the kill." The display showed the final devastating statistic. Human-caused extinctions over the last 500 years compared to natural extinction rates. In the time since humans developed industrial technology, they have caused species to go extinct at a rate 1,000 times faster than natural background extinction rates. The numbers were staggering. Thousands of species lost forever, entire ecosystems destroyed, populations that had survived for millions of years wiped out in decades. And this is just what humans did to other species on their own planet, Katie said. Now they are expanding into space. The display showed human colonies spreading to other worlds, human ships exploring new star systems, human research teams studying alien ecosystems. Everywhere humans go, they begin the same process. Study the local life forms, understand their weaknesses, develop hunting strategies, establish dominance over the environment. She paused, looking around the auditorium at faces that showed growing alarm. "The question you should be asking is not whether humans are Earth's deadliest predator," Katie said. "The question you should be asking is, what happens when Earth's deadliest predator decides to hunt in space?" The silence that followed was broken only by the soft humming of the auditorium's life support systems and the nervous movements of hundreds of alien students who were beginning to realize that the small, harmless-looking human on stage might represent something far more dangerous than any of the monsters they had seen that day. Jake sat in the audience, staring at Katie with a mixture of pride and horror. He had never thought about his own species in these terms before. Looking around at the worried faces of his alien classmates, He began to understand why Katie's smile had been looking more and more predatory as the week progressed. Katie stood quietly at the podium, allowing the weight of her previous words to settle over the auditorium. The silence stretched on, broken only by the nervous shifting of alien students and the soft whisper of atmospheric processors working overtime to maintain environmental stability for increasingly stressed life forms. "I know what you are thinking," Katie said finally, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "Everything I have shown you describes human behavior on Earth, in primitive conditions, against unintelligent prey. Surely things are different, now that humans have advanced technology and are part of galactic civilization." She activated her tablet, and the holographic display changed to show a timeline extending from the present into the recent past. "Let me show you what humans have accomplished in just the last 500 years. The display showed Earth as it appeared 5 centuries ago. Vast forests, clean oceans, thousands of diverse ecosystems teeming with life. This was Earth before humans developed industrial technology," Katie said. "Millions of species, stable, ecosystems that had existed for millions of years, natural balance maintained across the entire planet." The timeline began moving forward, and the image of Earth began to change. Green areas representing forests shrank rapidly. Blue areas representing wild rivers disappeared behind gray lines marking dams and diversions. Brown areas representing cities expanded like spreading stains. Watch what happened in just 500 years. The transformation was shocking in its speed and scope. Entire continents changed color as forests became farmland, then cities. Species extinction markers appeared and multiplied exponentially. The atmosphere itself began changing color as human industrial activity altered its composition. In 5 centuries, a mere moment in geological time, humans reshaped the entire planet, Katie said. They did not adapt to Earth's existing ecosystems. They replaced them with ecosystems designed to serve human purposes. Torgak's voice rumbled through the auditorium. "But this shows environmental destruction, not predation." "Does it?" Katie asked. She zoomed the display in on specific examples. When humans needed more farmland, what happened to the animals that lived in the forests? The display showed massive deforestation operations. As trees fell, the animals that had lived there fled, starved, or died. Entire species disappeared as their habitats were converted to human use. When humans needed rivers for power and transportation, what happened to the fish? The simulation showed dam construction blocking migration routes that fish had used for millions of years. Fish populations crashed and disappeared as their breeding cycles were disrupted. When humans needed minerals for their technology, what happened to the creatures that lived above the mineral deposits? The display showed massive mining operations that stripped away entire mountains, leaving lifeless wastelands where complex ecosystems had existed. "This is not environmental destruction," Katie said. "This is predation on an ecosystem scale. Humans do not just hunt individual animals. They hunt entire environments," Professor Veltar spoke carefully. "Miss Martinez, are you suggesting that humans deliberately destroyed other species?" "Sometimes deliberately, sometimes as a side effect," Katie replied, "but always systematically. Watch this." The display changed to show human whaling operations over the past 3 centuries. Massive ships pursued whales across Earth's oceans, hunting them with industrial efficiency. Humans hunted the largest animals on their planet nearly to extinction, not for food, but for oil to fuel their lamps, Katie explained. When they developed better lighting technology, they stopped hunting whales. Not because the whales fought back or became too difficult to catch, but because humans no longer needed them. The implications sank in among the audience. Humans had almost destroyed entire species simply because they had wanted something those species possessed, then abandoned the hunt when they found alternatives. But surely, Aqua 7 bubbled nervously, humans learned from these mistakes. Surely they developed better practices. Katie's smile grew wider. They did learn. They learned to hunt more efficiently. The display showed modern human fishing, operations. Factory ships the size of cities swept nets through the oceans, catching everything in vast areas of water. Modern human fishing fleets can empty entire ocean regions in months, Katie said. They use sonar to locate fish, satellite tracking to follow schools, and processing ships that can handle thousands of tons of catch per day. The scale was staggering. The hologram showed fishing operations that captured more marine life in a single day than most planets' apex predators would catch in centuries. Humans industrialized hunting, Katie continued. They created systematic, technology-driven predation on a planetary scale. The display shifted to show human agriculture, but instead of showing peaceful farms, it revealed the true scope of agricultural operations. Humans domesticated their prey, Katie said. Instead of hunting wild animals, they bred animals specifically for killing. Billions of creatures genetically, modified to grow faster and larger, kept in controlled environments where escape is impossible. The hologram showed factory farms with thousands of cattle, pigs, and chickens in confined spaces, all being raised solely for slaughter. Humans created industrial killing operations that process millions of animals per day, Katie explained. They turned predation into a mechanized industry. Elder Consensus spoke, its ancient voice heavy with growing concern. This level of systematic killing suggests a species that has lost all natural restraint. No, Katie said. It suggests a species that evolved beyond natural restraint. Humans are not limited by instinct, territory, or biological needs. They are limited only by their own decisions about what to hunt and when to stop. The display changed to show human expansion into space. Spacecraft mining asteroids, research teams studying alien worlds, colonies being established on distant planets. Now humans are expanding beyond Earth, Katie said. They are carrying their hunting techniques to new environments, with new prey and new ecosystems to study and exploit. She brought up data from recent human colony worlds. On New Terra, humans identified 2,847 native species within 5 years of arrival. They have already begun domesticating 23 of them and have driven 7 species to local extinction through habitat modification. The audience stirred uneasily. These were not ancient historical events, but current human activities happening right now. On Kepler Colony, humans encountered a species of intelligent, tool-using creatures. Within 2 years, they had studied their behavior patterns, learned their communication methods, and established complete dominance over their territory. Zixandra's voice was barely above a whisper. Katie, are you saying humans are still expanding and hunting on other worlds? I am saying that humans never stopped hunting, Katie replied. They just expanded their hunting grounds. The display showed a map of human expansion through the galaxy. Human colonies, research stations, and exploration fleets spread across dozens of star systems. Every world humans visit, they study. Every species they encounter, they catalog. Every ecosystem they find, they analyze for potential exploitation. She brought up data from human xenobiology research programs. Humans, now have detailed files on over 50,000 alien species across 200 different worlds. They know their life cycles, their weaknesses, their behavioral patterns, and their potential uses. The scope of human information gathering was breathtaking. They had systematically studied and documented alien life with the same thoroughness they had once applied to Earth's animals. Humans have created the largest database of alien species information in galactic history, Katie said. They know more about your homeworld species than most of you do. Professor Veltar's yellow eyes were wide with shock. Miss Martinez, are you suggesting that humans are gathering intelligence on other species for predatory purposes? Katie looked directly at him. Professor, what would you call it when a species systematically studies other species' weaknesses, behavioral patterns, and survival strategies? The auditorium fell completely silent as the implications became clear. Every alien student present realized that humans had been studying their species, learning their capabilities and limitations, mapping their strengths and weaknesses. Humans call it research, Katie said. But on Earth we have another word for studying prey before hunting it. She paused, looking around the auditorium at hundreds of alien faces that were no longer showing curiosity or skepticism, but fear. We call it stalking. The holographic display changed one final time, showing current human military capabilities. Weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could travel faster than light, surveillance systems that could track individual life forms across star systems. Humans now possess the technology to hunt on a galactic scale, Katie said quietly. They can track prey across light years, strike targets from star systems away, and eliminate entire planets if necessary. She looked around the auditorium one more time, meeting the eyes of students and faculty who were beginning to understand the true nature of the species they had welcomed into galactic civilization. The question you asked was about Earth's deadliest predator, she said. But I think you understand now that this was never about Earth. The auditorium remained completely silent for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. Hundreds of alien students and faculty members sat motionless, processing what they had just witnessed. The environmental systems worked frantically to maintain atmospheric balance as stress hormones and fear pheromones flooded the air from dozens of different species. Katie stood quietly at the podium, her presentation complete. The holographic displays had faded, leaving only the standard academy lighting and the small human figure at the center of the vast stage. She looked exactly the same as when she had first walked up to present. Small, harmless, unremarkable. But now everyone in the auditorium saw her differently. Professor Veltar was the first to break the silence. His voice was carefully controlled, but his yellow eyes showed barely contained alarm. Miss Martinez, he said slowly, your presentation has been comprehensive. You have provided extensive evidence for your claim about human predatory capabilities. Katie nodded politely. Thank you, Professor. I hope I have adequately answered your question about Earth's deadliest predator. You have, he replied. Perhaps too adequately. Elder consensus rose from its position in the faculty section. The ancient being's presence commanded immediate attention, and its voice carried the weight of countless years of experience. Human student, it said, your presentation raises questions that extend far beyond academic curiosity. Are we to understand that humanity's expansion into galactic civilization represents a predatory expansion rather than peaceful exploration? Katie considered the question carefully before answering. Elder consensus. I can only describe what humans have done historically and what they are currently doing. I cannot predict future human behavior. But based on the patterns you have shown, Elder Consensus continued, what would you expect? Humans to do as they encounter more alien species and explore more worlds? Katie's smile had never wavered throughout her presentation, but now it took on a quality that made several students shift uncomfortably in their seats. Based on historical patterns, she said, I would expect humans to study each new species they encounter. They will learn their weaknesses, their capabilities, their social structures, and their survival strategies. They will catalog this information and share it among all human colonies and research facilities. She paused, looking around the auditorium. They will establish whether each species represents potential prey, potential competition, or potential allies. They will develop contingency plans for dealing with each possibility. Torgak's stone voice rumbled through the auditorium. And what determines which category a species falls into? That depends on what humans want from them, Katie replied simply. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Students began to understand that humanity's friendly participation in galactic civilization might be something very different from what they had assumed. Zixandra stood up slowly, her forearms trembling slightly. Katie, she said, are you telling us that humans have been studying all of us? Learning our weaknesses? Planning how to hunt us? Katie looked at her roommate and friend with genuine affection. Zixandra, humans have been studying every species in the Academy since they first arrived here. Did you think they came to learn about galactic civilization just for academic interest? The revelation sent a wave of shocked whispers through the audience. Every alien student realized that their human classmates had been gathering intelligence about their species for years. But, Zixandra continued desperately, humans have been peaceful. They have not attacked anyone. They follow galactic law and participate in cooperative research. Of course they do, Katie agreed. Why would humans attack species that are voluntarily providing them with information about galactic civilization, technology, and alien capabilities? Cooperation is much more efficient than conflict when you are gathering intelligence. Jake stood up in the audience, his face pale. Katie, are you saying that every human in the Academy is some kind of spy? Katie looked at him with amusement. Jake, did you not realize that everything you learn here gets reported back to Earth through standard communication channels? Did you think human governments were not interested in information about alien technology, social structures, and military capabilities? Jake sat down heavily, realizing that his own reports and communications home had been part of a massive intelligence-gathering operation without his knowledge. Professor Veltar spoke again, his voice tight with concern. Miss Martinez, what you are describing sounds like preparation for eventual conquest. Not conquest, Katie corrected. Preparation for whatever humans decide they want to do. Humans prefer to have complete information before making decisions about other species. And what happens to species that humans decide they do not want to cooperate with? Asked Aqua 7. Katie's expression remained pleasant and friendly. I think you already know the answer to that question. The auditorium fell silent again as everyone considered the fate of species that had opposed human expansion on Earth. Elder Consensus spoke once more, its ancient voice heavy with the weight of realization. You are telling us that humanity's entry into galactic civilization represents the arrival of an apex predator species that views all other life forms as potential prey. No, Katie said. I am telling you, that humanity's entry into galactic civilization represents the arrival of an apex predator species that has already begun studying you as potential prey. The distinction was subtle, but terrifying. Humans were not considering whether to hunt alien species. They were already in the early stages of the hunting process. But surely, a crystalline student said desperately, humans must have some limits, some species they would not hunt? Katie tilted her head thoughtfully. Can you name a species on Earth that humans decided they could not hunt? The student was quiet for a long moment. No, it said finally. Then why would you assume humans would behave differently toward alien species? Professor Veltar stood up, his large frame towering over the podium. Miss Martinez, I must ask directly. Do you consider the students and faculty in this auditorium to be potential prey? Katie looked around the room, her gaze moving from one alien face to another. Students who had been her classmates and friends for months now saw her looking at them with new eyes. Not the eyes of a fellow student, but the eyes of a predator, evaluating potential targets. Professor, she said finally, I consider everyone in this auditorium to be exactly what they have always been. Which is? Katie's smile widened slightly. Research subjects. The words hit the auditorium like a physical blow. Every alien present realized that they had been unconsciously providing a human with detailed information about their species, their capabilities, their social structures, and their weaknesses for months. Zixandra's voice was barely a whisper. Katie,